Hello, welcome, gamers, hobbyists, miniature painters, and all that other good stuff in between. Welcome to this first episode of Between the Battles. This is a series where I talk about stuff in a much more relaxed manner, but I take a topic and I break it down and I talk about it, my thoughts and opinions on said topic. What goes on, my thought process in between actually rolling dice and all that kind of stuff. So, with that in mind, I have taken the liberty of writing some notes down because I forget things. Right, just I may have to adjust my microphone every so often because I'm always paranoid that it's not in the right place. So I'll have some coffee. Mm. Yes, 3D Monster Maze. Anyway, so welcome, guys. Glad you're here. Why do I hobby the way I do? Well, first of all, how do I hobby? I hobby primarily solo now. That's what I do. Now, I used to be a more I don't know what you call it, social hobbyist years ago. Go to clubs and conventions and things like that. Play in group games, in person games. Go to a place, set up, play a game, come home, all that good stuff. I suppose I'd seen the reasons behind why I'm solo now. It's a long story, really, and I'm going to talk about the whole solo versus social hobbying side of things. Now, when I suppose my earliest memory of gaming would have been Dungeons and Dragons when I was at school. First type of gaming I did. Excuse me. Mm. That would have been the first type of gaming I ever did. Although at the time, I can remember walking past like a Games Workshop store in the local town centre and seeing various games going on. I had no clue, no idea what it was all about, none whatsoever. I just used to stare in wonder, particularly in the window where they had all these amazing miniatures painted. What I thought was like to a fantastical level. I was like, whoa, that is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, I had no idea about it. But I digress slightly there. But it was around that time, and when I was at school, I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons. Never heard of it. There was a club at my school that called Dungeons and Dragons Club, which was held during the break time, the lunch break during school hours, and I went along to one with a friend of mine who said, "We should check it out." And it was evident when we got there. It was evident that they'd not been doing it long, but they had obviously done I've got quite a few, maybe 2 or 3 sessions beforehand already. Everybody was sat around a table. They'd rolled up their characters, and they just handed me this piece of paper with like a character on it. It was a halfling. I can remember that, saying, "Look, this is." I can't remember what the character was called now, but this is so and so. This is like kind of John's character. He doesn't do it anymore, but you can play him, keep our game going. I think something similar happened to my friend. He sat there, and I got the impression nobody around that table knew what they was doing, but everybody was having a good time, and it was enough to spark something within me, thinking, this is something I want to do more of. I want this, and that led to my friend saying, "Look, I think I can do what they're doing on my own, without doing it there. We could do it over my house after school. We can take longer with it. We can, work through the rules, etc., etc." And I said, "Yeah, sure, that sounds great." And they did, and it became a group of, well, 4 of us altogether. Um, yeah, there was 4 of us. There was myself, 2 friends, and another friend. who was GMing it, and it was his house we were at, or DMing it. It was called in those days, wasn't it? There was just a DM. But yeah, and we had a great time, and the social aspect of gaming back in those days it was vital. It brought us together. We bonded not just over the game, but in real life too. Because one of those people I'd really never met before, but I got to know him well. He became a good friend and a close friend for many years. We ended up doing all sorts together as a group. Paintballing, going out, bowling. All that kind of stuff that used to go on back in the '90s and that kind of thing. And we did it for many years after leaving school. Um, so what happened? Why did solo come on the scene? It's a good point. I suppose, and we all know it's not easy to find a group. I can remember scouring notice boards in gaming stores and things like that, putting ads up. Any groups out there that want an extra player because I just couldn't get enough of D&D. Um, so it was the role playing aspect for me that happened first with the hobby. It was that. Mm. So I think it started coming about because people were finding it difficult. But we're talking, I don't know how far back. I've come across rules for solo gaming and role playing. Not role playing so much, but more tabletop war gaming, in the solo format. I've come across rules for that. Um, how to do that. These were like historical games. And when I was a kid, also at school, the Fighting Fantasy books came out, didn't they? And they were basically fantasy stories in which you were the hero. You made the choices. You rolled up a character essentially. Got to roll dice, play through the game, make choices in the story, and have a bloody good time doing it. And for me, that was golden. You know, like I say, I couldn't get enough of the whole gaming thing. So solo was just a way of filling in extra time when I couldn't get together with a group. Then I suppose I, after a while of leaving school, people start to filter off, don't they? Get girlfriends or whatever, get relationships, get married, move away, and real life takes over, doesn't it, in a big way? Changes your life. You just kind of stop gaming for a while, stop being in a hobby. Always interested in it, and I was always interested in it, but real life takes over, priorities change, and you just think, well, that was a nice thing to do when I was a kid. However, for me, I came back to the hobby and I came back through Warhammer 40K actually. Although I'd played lots of role playing games, throughout my life, on and off. Not just D&D. I played D&D, played Pathfinder, played Call of Cthulhu, played Judge Dredd. That was another one. There were others. I just can't. I can't name them all. But Cyberpunk, Vampire, Werewolf, all those. Yeah, Mage. You know, that's all the same sort of one. But one day, I decided to. I was getting a new hobby. I started writing. I wanted to write a book, fantasy book, essentially, and I wanted to recreate. Well, I wanted to put down on paper a particular fight scene that my characters had gotten into, and I couldn't really put it down onto paper too well for some reason. It was eluding me the whole encounter. I don't know what he's seeing. I don't know what she's seeing. I don't know, what's happening. I thought, oh no, I'll build it as like a diorama in miniature format. But I had no idea, no skills, no knowledge of what to do or what I needed. But I thought, I know, I'll go to my local Games Workshop store. They might be able to help me. They probably got some stuff. Because the last time I'd gone by there, it was still like all games, fantasy, role playing, and everything. But this time when I went, it was totally different. It was purely Warhammer tabletop war game, fantasy and 40k. Anyway, I went in there, but I sort of was kind of saw what I was looking for because it was the scene that I was trying to write was in amongst some trees. You see, so I thought, and the store manager just got talking to me. Oh, what you're looking for, and I told him I want to build a little diorama thing, blah blah, some trees, whatever, and put some miniatures around there. So we've got all this, and that. He said, yeah. He had pretty much everything I wanted. And then he just happened to say, "Do you play?" Nodding towards the demo game we got set up there. I said, "Well, no." Oh, look at the miniatures; they're fantastic. He said, "Well, do you want a game?" I thought, I don't know. Do I? I had plenty of time on my hands as it happened, and I thought, yeah, why not? It was the Dark Vengeance box set that was on demo there. So it was all set up on an amazing terrain and table, all painted up. And I thought, yeah, I'll have a go. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. And basically, we played the game, the manager, the store manager, and myself. There was no one else in the shop, so it was easy. And he basically told me what needed to roll, how many dice, what it was for, blah blah blah. And I thought, as I started getting into it, I started enjoying myself. I thought, this is good fun, like this. And in the end, I won the game, which I am 100% sure was meant to happen. You don't want to trash a game. You don't want to trash an opponent on their first game, do you? If you're trying to get them into the hobby, you want them to feel good about themselves and how they can beat another army. Yeah, so we did that. So he let me win, I'm sure. Of course he did. But anyway, suffice to say, I'm going to cut a long story short here because I know I'm delving deep into this topic about why I hobby the way I do, but I came away from that store with a bundle. I couldn't see over, where I was going because I had this pile of stuff. I had my hands there. I was holding boxes, paints, glues, brushes, miniatures. Got back to my wife like, "Oops, I think I might have done something here." I even called into another gaming store before I went back to my wife, and I bought like a how-to book, how to paint miniatures with a DVD, and I bought a few more models. I had loads of stuff. I went overboard. I went over the top, but I did it, and I had a great time. Started getting into the hobby that way. Buying all the books, going through it, blah blah blah. Getting onto YouTube and things like that. Making videos, I should say. I mean, there are many platforms out there now. Are there not? Um, and I thought, what else is there? There's tabletop games. There's other tabletop war games. Gone into them, and before you know it, I was joining. I think it was called the Giant's Lair. It was like a local gaming club. I did that for a while, then that closed down. Then I found another like a gaming club that opened that ran on a Sunday morning. I started going there for a few times, playing a whole array of different games. All sorts from like War Machine Hordes to Bolt Action, that kind of thing. I'd never played historical at that point until I went there. American Civil War, that was another one. A bit of Black Powder, all that kind of stuff. I ended up doing all sorts. I made friends, played games down their houses. Just got to play all manner of tabletop war games. And okay, and that happened. And I'd seen a few videos pop up now and again on on places like YouTube where it would say like how to do this solo and how to can you role play solo and what. I just think, "Nah, don't be daft. Of course you can't. You need a game master. Blah 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 blah." And then COVID happened, right? And we all know what happened there. But essentially, everybody was told not to socialize or mix with other people with lockdown, right? Now, one of the things to come out of that was that gaming companies were pretty much forced to look at solo games and how they could improve them, how they could be run, what tools they could make to make it easier. And I'm not just talking about tabletop games, I'm talking about role playing. And over that whole period and through to now, and it's just getting better and better all the time. It's just evolved into something that started for me thinking solo gaming, don't be daft, to yeah, I can see the value of it, to actually it's all right. To this point now, where I prefer to solo game. It's gotten to the point now where I prefer to solo game. Uh, Now, as some of you know, I have uh, I have MS, I have epilepsy, I have ADHD. Now, the MS alone, with the medication, suppresses my immune system, so it's kind of not cool to be out amongst people and their germs and that. Anyway, I mean, I've never been a big fan of that. Anyway, but and I'm not scared of it or anything. It's just that why take extra risks, right? Um, so there are pros and cons to gaming in a group. You meet people face to face. You get a feel for them, but at the same time, if you don't gel, that kind of wastes your time. If it's done more online, you can kind of walk away still, but you've still kind of wasted your time. Whereas if you're solo, you're doing it yourself. It's just you to worry about. And the other thing is, you don't have to see. In the old days, I used to run games and that. I used to have to organize a whole group getting together at the same time. This was no easy task. Turning up, getting over the small talk stage, finally, another hour later, probably settling down to actually start gaming. You don't, and it eats into your time. Time is precious, especially when you get older. We all know that, right? And that's that. So now, for instance, with my condition or conditions, I don't like to label myself, but sometimes it's easier if you make sense of what you've got. As you may know, there are what they call rules light games, rules heavy games. Now, back in the old days, I could cope with rules heavy games. I wasn't a huge fan of them, if I'm honest, but I could cope with them, and they were doable. Games like Judge Dredd as a role playing game, it's kind of rules heavy, really. And D&D got more and more complex as we got to like third edition onwards, really. But that yeah, I mean, I think it was. I don't know if it was a third edition or 3.5. It was getting kind of. I thought it was getting kind of ridiculous, the complexity of the games. But here's the thing: for role playing now, solo, and we'll talk about how I can do it. Um, I don't need to phone anybody up, contact anybody, say you available. Hi John, are you available to come around on Sunday at 1 o'clock? We have a game, or get 4 out of 5 people that can, and the other one can't, and you can't really play a proper game because someone's missing. None of that now. Solo, it's just me to worry about, and that's all I got. That's all I got to think about. It's just me, the effort I put into it, the enjoyment I get out of it. So if anything goes wrong, it's my fault. Now, okay, what have I got here now? Painting. That's another aspect of the hobby where they used to do social painting. Used to go into a store or a club and do painting together. Now, and then a lot of painting was done for accuracy, particularly the historical games. Um, Now you got to paint for enjoyment or paint for accuracy. I like to paint for enjoyment. A lot of the time, that is fairly accurate as well, but I don't bind myself to it, and I don't have to because I'm a solo gamer. There's no one else at my table going to get offended if I paint miniatures in a certain way, is there? I can choose my own color schemes, or I can follow box art. A lot of the time, I follow box art, particularly on board games, so that I can easily identify certain characters. Games like, say, Zombicide, where there's miniatures heavy, but there's box art, and I like to be able to spot who I'm playing with on the table at any one time quite easily because of the color scheme. Um, Also, with solo, I can let go of any official expectations that there may be, whether that's how I run the game. I'll be running it for myself or painting the miniatures. There's no expectations. I can be as complex or as simplified as I like. Um, so I hobby, whether it's gaming, painting, whatever, around my energy and focus levels. Okay. So if I'm not feeling too energetic, I can sit down, I can make a talky video, for instance, or I can really delve into something, like hopefully I'm delving into this topic now, or I can just chill out, have a chill out session or a paint along session, which I love doing. Just I get some miniatures painted and just talk about my week, for instance. That's cool as well. I love doing that. In fact, they're my favorite types of videos, so I'm intending obviously to make more of those. I do like a good tutorial. I know I'm going slightly off topic here now, but I like a good tutorial, but they got to be right. They've got to meet certain expectations, and I don't want to offend anybody here. I don't want to upset anybody, but I will say tutorials that have like heavy metal playing in the background, I instantly click off those. I'm not interested. I much prefer the quiet, calm of just someone talking gently through what they're doing, and I can see it, possibly follow along if I want to. Not with this racket going on in the back. I just can't. I can't bear that. That's a personal choice. That's subjective. I know, and it's everybody's different. So some of you may like that, and that's fine. But I make my tutorials, and everything I make, content wise, is kind of a work in progress. So they change over time. Right. Here's another one. Short sessions versus long sessions, whether you're painting or gaming or whatever, or just piddling about like this. I can have a short video. I can have a long video, or medium video. I can just do that. I could pick projects that don't feel overwhelming, and like I've recently done, I started a project. I thought, you know what, it's a little bit much for me at the moment. I'm packing it away so I can put some energy into a different project. Start that because I get more enjoyment out of that. And everything you do, every brushstroke you do, that's one less that you have to do in the future, right? So that's cool. So picking projects that don't feel overwhelming. And I would say that over the years, my hobby style has changed drastically. Okay, so yeah, that's why though I hobby the way I do because things happen like COVID, like I'm getting older, like I'm getting picking up conditions, I'm wearing out now, and I choose to hobby solo because that's how I prefer it. I get more enjoyment out of it like that. I can't argue with myself. I can't fall out with myself. I can play for as little or as long as I want, and as long as or as little as is convenient for me. And that's amazing. I could like stop this video right now and say, look, do you know what? I want to read some rules on a game I'm playing. I might do that in a minute. I might go read up on some alien RPG rules that I want to look at. I can do that. Can't do that if I'm out somewhere. I can't just say, oh, hi, I'm going now, guys. Well, I could, but they'd be like, oh, bit rude, isn't it? You just got to. But I can do that now. If my mood changes, I can stop doing it. I think, yeah, stuff it. I don't want to do this anymore. Or I can think, yeah, let's get some more models out. Let's paint a load of stuff. Let's make some videos. Let's do some unboxings. Let's just chill. I can do all of that stuff solo. So I've changed as a person. The hobby's changed because it's evolved to such a finesse way of being able to game with solo. Now it's getting really, really good. And of course, you've got things like AI bots and things like that, which can help you out with GMing. I'm not saying it's a replacement by any means, but to be by and large, you don't really need that. I have actually played a game solo with an AI bot running the game. I won't go into that because that's like a video unto itself, but it was a game that the AI knew very well because it was part of what was used to test it. So it was phenomenal. I thought felt really good because it felt like I had a DM in the room or a GM in the room. I'm like, but I'm just solo. But you don't need that. You can do all of that with the tools you have nowadays, and it's phenomenal. It really works your brain, and I'm all for that because I don't want to develop dementia early or anything like that. So yeah, using the imagination. That's how it is for me. So these are all the things why these are all the reasons why I hobby the way I do, and I hope that's given you some little bit of insight into. Yeah, I hope that's given you a little bit of insight into why I hobby the way I do. This has been my first topic for Between the Battles. Lots going on, as you can see behind me. All that stuff. There's miniatures galore and those drawers and what's on top of them. They're not even opened yet. And all those rule books and that behind me. And it's just games. I got so much to do, and just myself to do it, which I love doing. Don't get me wrong. Occasionally, it's nice to like play a game with family members and that kind of thing. But even then, for that, it's not always easy to organize because of real life gets in the way. But there you go. I hope that's answered why I hobby the way I do. um, Now I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer it. It's just a question you might want to think about. It's about games, whether it's tabletop games. You could apply it to RPG games, but do you prefer narrative games or competitive ones, and why? Let me know in the comments below if you want to or not. No pressure, no biggie. But if not, just think about it. And hopefully, I'll see you guys on another video. Bye for now. Bye bye.